Hello there everyone, and welcome to my first devlog video here on this channel. So, the aim of this series is basically to document the process of me working on a game called the Planetbase project. I guess the name's going to change as development progresses, but let's just stick with it for now. So, the Planetbase project is a 2D city building game set on Mars that puts its focus on building a sustainable base while caring about the needs of the astronauts living there. It heavily relies on the simulation of the individual inhabitants or astronauts in the likes of games such as Banished or Planetbase, which some of you might know. Typically, in games like that, every inhabitant has a set of parameters defining his state. Those will be things such as hunger, thirst, exhaustion, happiness, and so on, which then allow for realistic behavioral patterns. Or, in other words, if an astronaut is hungry, he'll go and get some food. If he's exhausted, he'll go to bed and sleep. Work will only be carried out efficiently if all the other needs are fulfilled, giving a real incentive to provide proper care for the inhabitants. So the player will then be responsible for managing the needs of the colony by building structures and facilities, regulating resources, and potentially even trading with the Earth. As the game progresses, the goods required to satisfy the colony's inhabitants will get increasingly more sophisticated, requiring more complex production chains supported by strong infrastructure. Of course, I have many more ideas, like a system that would allow astronauts to get better at their profession over time, or simulating oxygen levels through different parts of the base. I'm sure I could go on, but the fact is that I'll have to get the basic systems working first. Here you can see the state of the game as it is. Although I really wouldn't call it a game at this point, it's more like a demonstration of the engine's main features. You can see that I've done some work on the pathfinding and movement system, although I consider those more to be part of the engine rather than the actual game. Having people moving around is the basis of every city building game though, so it's good to see that working. There are still some bugs related to the paths being calculated and updated in parallel, but that's something to be fixed in the future. So in case you're wondering why there are 10 people stacked into each other, well, that's a relic of me debugging the multi-threaded pathfinding. As you can see, I'm also planning to opt for a pixel art style, although the sprites you can see in the background are currently just placeholders that I downloaded from openart.org. It's quite a common choice nowadays, and for good reason so. Since I don't have anyone to help me out with the art, it's pretty much the only way for me to make a game that looks decent by myself. After looking into the programs available for pixel art, I came across a program called Pixel Edit, and I basically just stuck with it. It's designed in a very user-friendly way, but still offers pretty much all the features one could ask for. I'm not an artist, of course, so not having to learn how to use something like Photoshop is a big plus for me. And in fact, it's what I used to create all the game's concept art so far. As far as technology is concerned, I'm not using any of the major engines such as Unity, Unreal, or even Godot. But instead I've spent the past 2 years working on my own engine, which I creatively named the Planetbase engine. I already hear the common saying, why waste time making another engine? There's already so many out there. And I think I can partially agree with that, but there's also a number of benefits when writing your own. First of all, it's tailored to the game I want to make. And that's a pretty important factor by itself, but you could probably still argue that it's made up for by the better workflow and tools provided by an existing game engine. But this isn't actually the most important point. Really, the main reason that I prefer using my own engine is that I wrote it myself. So I know every little quirk and feature, and if I suddenly become a lunatic and decide to rewrite the entire render system completely, well, I can, just because I wrote it in the first place. Now, the question is this for everyone? And here, quite honestly, I must say no. As much as I'm looking forward to actually creating a game using it, truth must be told that if all you're after is to make a game, then you should probably use something like Unity that allows you to rely on the works of hundreds of experienced programmers, and that comes with an incredible amount of tutorials and example projects already. I'm not gonna get into too much detail on how my engine works, as that will probably be the focus of another video in the future. Also, I'm trying to focus this series more around the actual game development and not on how to design a game engine. Still, if I manage to make some of you excited, the engine is available on GitHub, and I'm currently working on a bunch of tutorials showing how to use it. This might also come in handy in the future if someone joins the development, or simply if the engine's going to be used by someone but me, because hell, even I'm grateful for my own documentation sometimes. So currently I'm working on the AI system of the game. In the background you can see a simple schematic demonstrating the different components. The idea is to use a utility-based AI system that consists of 3 major components. First of all, there are AI tasks. Tasks are basically just containers for the data related to a job. So if the job was to carry something from point A to point B on the map, then the task would probably store the A and B coordinates as well as the type of the item being carried. Secondly, there are all the AI systems that perform the actions required by a particular task. So in this example, there would be some system whose duty it is to move the character around while playing the respective animations. It would also be responsible for updating the game map and character inventory when the item has been picked up. So far, there is no real intelligence though, so we'll need to add a top-level AI system that then decides on things like the order in which tasks are assigned or the inhabitant that should go and perform them. I've mentioned earlier that I want to use something called a utility-based AI system. I'm not a great friend of terminology, so I'll try my best to explain it. In essence, the utility is a value that measures how important a task is. Higher utility means a task is more urgent and should therefore be performed next. It's basically left to us how to calculate this value though. And in fact, it can be calculated from a whole range of different things, such as, the parameters inhabitants have, so hunger, tiredness, or even a priority level set by the player. The exciting thing is that this mapping must not be linear, which allows for some quite realistic behaviors that take all these different factors into account. The utility then becomes the value which the top-level AI system can use to do all the fancy decision making and scheduling. There are quite a few reasonably scientific papers on this topic, which I'll link in the video description below in case you're interested. Anyway, that's all for now, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please take a second and hit that like button. And while you're here, you might also consider subscribing to the channel, as it's the best way to stay informed about new content as soon as it's out. So, thanks for watching everyone, and have a great day.